Few would have predicted that the season opener would not only go caution-free with a full field at Michigan, but that Dominic Begin would deny the multi-time champion Holly from visiting Victory Lane on top of it. Does this auspicious beginning signal an unusual season approaching? It'll be hard to tell today with a road course on our plate. We'll have to wait and see what the championship battle looks like after this one as we get ready to watch round 2 of the PRL NASCAR Truck Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Chris Foby. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Road America will certainly be a tough one for the trucks to navigate. Fast and full of lots of heavy braking zones, it's gonna test these bulky machines. Let's head to our track guide to learn a little bit more about it. Welcome to Road America. Nicknamed America's National Park of Speed, it's easy to see why just by looking at how the track is laid out. Long straights are a major feature, and drivers will build up incredible momentum before they find themselves interrupted by tight 90-degree corners. In fact, for a 4-mile circuit, it has shockingly few turns. It also has little in the way of variation in layouts. The main course is only broken up once with a single chicane added in the bend version. But don't take this to mean that it's a boring track. Elevation change happens many times over a lap, with a few places taking you into corners which are quite blind. But 2 of the turns on the back half of the course are perhaps the most distinctive. One is the carousel with its more than 180-degree radius. It just feels like it never stops. The other is the kink. Terrifyingly fast with very little runoff, it can end someone's race in a flash. As you'd expect, the heavy braking zones make for some ideal overtaking spots. Turn 5 sees plenty with its downhill entry. The hurried downs can offer drivers a chance at a sneak attack if you're brave, and then Canada Corner gives you one last shot before the lap is over. It's no wonder major organizations such as IMSA, IndyCar, NASCAR, and the SCCA all host major races here. All in all, many drivers rate this track as the best track in North America. Many who hop in the seat and try it can quickly understand why. Well, in real life, NASCAR has shown up here with the Xfinity cars and put on a good show. But Chris, we've got the trucks here today. What's it going to be like taking these things to this track?
Well, this is definitely going to be a wild card for these drivers. Not a lot of road courses that pop up on this schedule year over year. This is a challenging course on its own, but these trucks do not handle this track in a particularly friendly way. You mix into that a variety of experience levels with road racing in this field, and look for passing opportunities to mostly come from probably driver mistakes on the track, but also look for some passing zones under heavy braking. That's going to make for a very interesting race we have here at Road America, Joe.
No doubt about that, but this interesting race is brought to you by SIMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at simsa.net.
The PRL NASCAR Truck Series is also brought to you by NinjaTrader, ready to compete against the financial markets. Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Championship on its way with 1 round on the board, but it's an interesting one because our leaders are tied. You can see that Bradley Hawley, because of the bonus points he took last round, even though he did not win the race, is still top of the points with Dominic Begin. It's also a tie for second between Acosta and Sink. From there on down, we finally get single cars. Regan in third, Kalen fourth, and Colton Lane in fifth. What about the team standings so far here, Chris?
Well, that Whataback Overdrive Racing crew able to sit atop the standings alone with 88 markers, with the Whataback Back Row Racing Squad not too far back after 1 round with just 6 points. Car Ramrod hanging in there as well as Solid Rock Motorsports, just 1 point ahead of Cool Runnings Racing, trying to move up the rankings as well.
And for today's event, since it is a little bit unusual with the road course, here is our race details for today. We are in round 2 out of 10 for the season. It's only 20 laps. It takes quite a while to get around here, over 2 minutes per lap, just to put one on the board. They have 3 spare sets of tires. Now, this one will be a bit different because we expect there to only be a single pit stop for anybody doing a typical strategy. It is a fixed setup, and they have a 24 incident limit that the drivers have to adhere to. Might be a little bit tougher on a road course than it is on an oval, even with only 24 laps, or 20 laps rather, I should say, as we're watching Nick Schwartz come up to the line to set his first time lap. It's going to be a 2:19.2 for him. That'll put him 14th. Richard Regan Jr. currently holds our provisional pole, and he's going slow on the track, so his second lap appears to have been abandoned. Brett Adams, in the meantime, is coming up to the timing line, climbing the hill, and this one not going to count. He must have had an off track on that one there, Chris.
Yeah, that's not something that's too hard to do here at Road America. I mean, there's for one, there's a lot of room, so it's not too hard to get distracted looking at the trees and end up driving through them.
Blaine Adams does not improve on his second lap. He'll stay in 16th. Who else is coming across here? Doug Evans also not able to go quicker on his second lap. What about Bradley Hawley? Our current champion, the 184, yet to set a time. And I don't think he's going to get around for a second one because we're doing 2:16 laps. We have less than that left, but this first one is good enough for 4th. I wonder if it's got anything to do with the weather here, Chris, because I just took a glance and it's quite hot on the track surface.
Yeah, that is a very hot track temperature. You got to think maybe those guys were trying to wait it out and hoping the track would cool off a little bit.
That's a good point. Maybe he just figured no point trying to take that second lap, just to see if he could get a quick win on the first one if it cools down a little bit. As Brandon Walter comes down to Canada Corner. I see Mark Kalin coming around, but I think he is on a slow lap potentially. Number 62, the 99, is unfortunately going to find the wall out of Canada Corner. Here's Mike Richter instead. Another driver still looking to put one on the board in his number 51. As he exits the final turn, gets his speed up. These things have a lot of oomph, even though it is a steep climb, already up to 130 miles an hour, 140 as he approaches. And it's not going to count. Another driver lacking any sort of qualifying. In fact, we're almost missing half the field in qualifying times.
Yeah, I wonder how many of those are not taking a time because of strategy and how many, unfortunately, didn't have a choice in the matter.
Yeah, after watching some of the warm-up, we certainly saw a bit of chaos when they had their pit party. So could be a few that don't feel too confident and might want to start from the back. Charles Sumner, he does manage to put a time down. It's a 2:20.3. That'll be 18th for him. And then we've got Colton Lane coming up. I think he's got just enough time to get through. I do see Dominic Bajin behind him, but I think I just saw him having it off, so Bajin will put a time in. Wow. So last week's winner will be forced to start towards the back of the field. Colton Lane, this one's going to be a 2:20.5. That's good enough for 20th, just as the checkered flag comes out. It's time to go through our starting order for today. Richard Regan Jr. manages to take the pole and that bonus point that comes with it. Connor Hall will be second, and Danny Cervantes will be third. Then it's Bradley Hawley starting on the outside of row 2. Abner Acosta has the highest I rating here today, but he admitted he's struggling in the trucks and he's only starting 5th. Thomas Sink will be P6, and Daniel Knight will start 7th. Aaron Mulrooney will be P8, and you've got Mark Kalin in 9th. Doug Evans rounds out your top 10.
And just outside of the top 10 is Nicholas Hunter starting 11th, with Jim Westerfield coming in to start 12th. Patrick Cowgill will be 13th, with Austin Hunter to his outside in row number 7, followed by Brandon Walter and Nicholas Schwartz in row number 8. Adam Zemke is 17th, with Charles Sumner 18th on the grid, and then closing out the top 20 is going to be Blaine Adams in 19th and Colton Lane getting in the time right under the gun there to come in 20th.
Brandon Adams, 21st, with Stacy Hunter in 22nd, followed by the last driver to put a time down, Jose Medina, starts 23rd. These are all the drivers behind that did not manage a qualifying lap. John LaBath, Mike Richter, Dominic Begine, Brett Adams, Brennan Shatley, Adam Young, William Farmer, Ed Fowler, Doyle Lawrence, Terry Marinaro, and Shelby Huff all did not put one down. I do see them all in the session as well, so we expect all of our 34 cars to take to the grid today. And one of our members of the PRL has been quite lucky because Precision Racing League held a drawing for premium members of the league where they could win a Butt Kicker Gamer 2 kit worth $180 and up to $225 in iRacing gift cards. To become a premium member of the series, simply head over to precisionracingleague.com, and the winner of $100 worth of iRacing gift card money, it was Sam Doty. So congratulations to Sam. Don't spend it all in one place, but that'll certainly buy a number of cars and tracks for him, or maybe a bit more of subscription, depending on how he wants to spend that. Meanwhile, we've already taken off behind the Porsche pace car here today for our road racing round appropriately. Takes a while to get around here, so drivers have a bit to try and amp themselves up here, Chris, to hopefully try and make it through. I wonder if this is going to be a bit of a race of attrition today.
Well, if practice and qualifying are any indication, I think that's possibly a safe bet there, Joe. Things look a bit chaotic here in the warm-up, so we'll see how these drivers adjust once we get the green flag out. This is a series that's pretty clean for the most part, so maybe adding the right turns might throw them a little bit off their game, but we'll see here in just a moment.
Let's not forget those heavy braking zones that I mentioned in the intro as well. Coming in on cold tires down here into turn 5. This left-hander at the bottom of the hill, the long back stretch. It, even with drivers who are used to road racing, tends to catch them out and tends to cause wrecks at the start. So even though we saw them wreck in the kink during the warm-up and the big one that we witnessed, I kind of expect at least a few tussles to erupt here.
Well, one thing that's really challenging when you're racing trucks on this track is a lot of these guys that have the higher I ratings have done it in vehicles that have significantly better braking and better setup for road racing. So you have these drivers that have this mindset of how they have to drive this track, but unfortunately that's all thrown out the window when you get into these trucks that are heavy and hard to stop and hard to turn.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's unlike a lot of the road racing cars that you're going to try here on the iRacing service, and it's going to take a little bit of adapting as we continue to pace around 4 miles that it takes to get just one lap around this track, which is why you're seeing over 2 minutes worth just to put one on the board, riding on board down into what is called the Hurry Downs here. Around the left-hander into the carousel. This is Ed Fowler's view as we ride on his helmet cam. And then around a corner that is not going to be friendly to these trucks. Very long, sweeping turn through the carousel and plunging downhill at the same time before they head towards the nefarious kink.
Yeah, as if it wasn't hard enough to handle one of these trucks on this course, let's add a downhill hard braking zone. That's just delightful.
And then after the kink, they approach Canada corner. And even drivers with cars that have lots of downforce tend to overshoot into here. It's going to be tough braking. There's a little kink that you can see on the entry. We're going to catch a few out as the day goes by. Then the very blind Bill Mitchell bend, uphill, left-hander, can't see what's coming, can't see the apex.
Man, this pace lap is so long, I'm surprised some of these guys didn't have to pull over and take a nap.
Yeah, I hope this is on iRacing's list of ones to mark a shorter pace lap like they've done at places like Spa. In the meantime, Richard Regan Jr. now doubles up with the field behind him. He waits patiently as the pace car pulls in. He's holding them for a while. Not going yet. It's a long hold from the 46. looking for that green flag, and there it is. He is off, and it's not a good jump on Connor Hall to his outside in the number 77, already challenging him as it's a drag race between our front row down to the first corner. Disadvantage for Connor Hall being on the outside, and as they break into it, looks like Regan's going to be able to get it. No, over-under for the number 77. He's going to try to take the lead away. He's got the desired inside line down into turn 3. Can he complete the pass? It just brushing the sides of their trucks. Has to hold on to it as Connor gets some wheel spin. He's slow down the moraine sweep as Bradley Hawley spying second place.
Yeah, the rear end really stepped out of the back of Connor Hall there. Did not help his charge for the lead by any means.
And Hawley's already deep on the brakes, maybe even trying for first place here on his old rival, Richard Regan Jr. Regan gives him space at the apex, and the battle continues. Up under the Corvette bridge into turn 6. Still takes the apex away from the number 46. Bradley Hawley really wants to get track position here at the start of this race, but he has to give it up through 7.
Now, a lot of these drivers also compete in the PRL Truck Series. They were at the Watkins Glen. As you see Bradley Hawley again take a look to the inside.
Actually came together, getting into the side of Richard Regan Jr. That's twice in one lap. He's had contact with other cars. Hawley is going to have to fall back because of that, loses a lot of ground, and Connor Hall is thinking he could maybe get involved in this, and once again he starts to lose traction coming off the corner. An apology over the radio from Hawley, as for the first time they go through the kink and maybe a little too eager through there. Bradley Hawley finds himself close to the grass. He loses speed down the long stretch into Canada Corner, and once again side-by-side action into one of our desired passing zones around the outside. Connor Hall can't get it done. This is incredible fighting at the start of this race. Too wide through Bill Mitchell-Benz. Still neither of them willing to give way. Just the truck is not working for Connor Hall for the third time this lap. He finds himself squirming under the power.
Now, as I was starting to mention earlier, Joe, Connor Hall competed in the Cup Series race at Watkins Glen on Sunday night, and the race definitely did not go his way. So you got to think Connor's coming into this one with a chip on his shoulder, and he definitely has something that he wants to prove. Unfortunately, the truck does not seem to be suiting him very well today so far.
Looks like we've had 2 victims. Doyle Lawrence seems to have exited the race already, and Jose Medina is in pit lane getting repairs. We'll try and check to see what happened a little bit later on. Regan Jr.'s loving this as he's now split himself by about a second over Bradley Hawley. And then from there on down, they start to become a train. Hall, Cervantes in 4th, Sink 5th, and Acosta in 6th. Breaking down the hill into turn 5. Not seeing any pass attempts this time through there, but one car starts to see the tail wag, and that was Thomas Sink in the 48 trying to catch it as he came around that sharp left-hander. That's going to put the car of Acosta right underneath his rear spoiler, maybe looking for an opportunity to attack, but it's not quite there.
Yeah, Acosta is a driver that should be really interesting to keep an eye on today. He's primarily a road racer by nature, but these trucks are a whole different animal, and Abner even admitted during the warm-up that he's not completely comfortable yet racing one of these vehicles around this track, which he has a ton of experience here.
And Nick Hunter has gone off in the hurry downs. He's losing tons of spots. And I think this is his own doing. We've got a replay here for the 109. Yeah, oh wow, nobody near him, and he just outbrakes himself off into the kitty litter.
And that's got to be the most frustrating part of coming to road racing from being primarily an oval driver, Joe. You know how to drive a truck, but these mistakes that happen just because you're out of your comfort zone, they make it even worse because you're going to compound these incidences by being so frustrated with yourself.
Certainly, as we come back live, watching from the gearbox of Hunter, that's Brett Adams, and John LaBaff in the 911 is off. And did he touch the barriers? Doesn't look like it. I don't see damage on the truck. Now that rescue racing machine is finally going to get a chance to get going, but it slots him into 29th. Let's see if he had help, or was this all on his own? on his own. Self-made error.
I think that was a case of just putting the gas down too quick.
Yeah, it looked like it to me. Let's head back up to third place, where we've got a good fight between Hall and Cervantes over the final podium position. Oh, and we had a problem behind them. Doug Evans now off track. This is another one that just happened with no help whatsoever, and it's another one with the rear came around on 41. So Evans going to get it going and continues on his way down the moraine sweep. Back to the fight that we were looking at. Cervantes instead is under pressure now from Sink. Oh, but Sink falls back through turn 7. Now Acosta. It's a chain reaction down the field. As soon as one gets close to another, it seems to back them up into the truck behind.
Yeah, it's 4 trucks that seem to just be trading battles back and forth here right now as Acosta's going to work on that 48, a Sink. And it's got to be frustrating to see that little bit of gap to the inside, but not quite able to get the nose up there to stick it in.
Still, he's very tight to the back of that number 48. They come through the kink. He holds it well. Acosta's got a good opportunity. Does he try and take it? Long braking zones. More chances to try and get by. No, he brakes early and decides he's got plenty of racing left to go. A little wide there for Thomas Sink, and that's exactly what Acosta was waiting for. He takes it a lot easier right there into the top 5.
We're going to see a ton of passes just like that, Joe. A lot of these guys, like I mentioned, are out of their element, and these trucks are not easy to drive on this track, so we're going to see a lot of passes that are born from mistakes like that.
Patience certainly looks like it will be key here today. Already starting lap 4 now. Almost a quarter of the way through this thing. Still 2 pit stops, I imagine, as they come around turn 1 once again. We're going to look a little bit farther back, where we got a side-by-side. Knight trying to defend on the outside from Mark Kalin. Both of them squirming around. Kalin in the green truck decides he's just not willing to risk it. He backs out of it. Will this give him the launch that he wants down the moraine sweep? Doesn't quite look like he got it. Does get a nice slipstream, though.
It is impressive the amount of speed these trucks carry down these straightaways, given, some of the... Oh, we got a move here.
Brave move down to the inside of Knight. And once again, too greedy on the right foot. And the 62 finds the truck does not want to comply. So he doesn't get the spot yet. Well, he's very good on the brakes, apparently, but not very good on the throttle. As we come back to our top 2, and Bradley Hawley showing he's not just good at ovals, he's good at the road courses. The 184 already all over the back of Richard Regan Jr.
Yeah, Bradley is such a versatile driver. We see him really excel on just about every kind of track that these trucks race on, and he's showing that today here, running a very competent race here in the first opening lap.
As they slide through the kink, they've split themselves from Connor Hall by about a second and a half. Oh, but they got a lap truck just in front of them. That's Shelby Huff trying to stay out of the way. Thankfully, nothing comes of it between our leaders. Still, I'm impressed with how Hawley has managed to put the pressure onto Richard Regan. Though he's not quite as close as we saw just a little bit earlier. It's back up to about 5/10, 6/10 of a second between the pair of them. Looks like Sink might be overtaken by Mulrooney here. No, Sink is overtaking Mulrooney. It's the reverse, up to 6th place for the 48. That is the front of Mulrooney's Toyota that we can see on screen, and he's not willing to try and attack back into the first corner to try and see if he can retake that position.
Yeah, Mulrooney's still having a pretty solid day here so far. You know, it's kind of funny, Joe. We're only 5 laps into this one, and given that we're on Road America, that's actually a pretty significant chunk of this race.
Absolutely is. Fully a quarter of the way into it. You could see how close they were getting Sink and Mulrooney coming off the corner. Aaron did try and see if he could get himself in there, but couldn't put the power down smoothly enough. Oh, in front of them, a mistake, I believe, from Danny Cervantes is going to gift another one to Abner Acosta. That road experience shining through for the number 5, and now he's up to 4th. He's going to have to give it back. Let's stay on this replay because they're still fighting in real time, and they actually just came together. Looks like there's the mistake from the 25. That's what kicks this all off. Stays with it, tries to fight back. Does he pull the over-under here? Yeah, a little bit too wide there for Acosta in the black truck. Starts to lose it. Through turn 7, too wide. Doesn't pay off. And the 25 gets hit. Both of them off into the grass. Acosta down to 8th. Cervantes down to 9th.
That's a tough break for both of those drivers. As we were talking about earlier, Abner has mentioned he's not 100% comfortable racing these vehicles on this track, and I think that showed there. He tried to lean on his road racing experience, but unfortunately the NASCAR side of things reached up and bit him.
Yeah, much more used to those GTE cars from what we've seen on this channel. Heading back to Thomas Sink, who we were watching not long ago with Mulrooney. And Aaron still about 0.3 of a second behind. They're coming onto the front stretch. Oh, another mistake. Having to catch it to stay out of the back of Sink. Mulrooney sawing away at the wheel.
That was a tremendous save there.
Unfortunately, that really cost his momentum. I thought he was going to have a good shot at trying to attack up into turn 1 here, but he had to give away so much easing up. Just wasn't meant to be. Ed Fowler now in pit lane. I'm not sure why. Holly once again. Ooh, he's within 0.2. This has been the closest we've seen him since about the start of the race. And last time he was this close, he actually tried to outbrake our leader down into turn 5. Regan knows it. He covers him off, and Holly stays on the racing line. He sees the writing on the wall and maybe almost sticks his nose in. Regan parking it at the apex and preventing Holly from managing to do something with his speed in the corner.
That's one thing I really love about road racing with these kinds of vehicles, Joe. It's not always driving the track best, but it's driving the track in the way that's going to disadvantage your competition the most, as we saw there from Richard Regan.
Canny stuff from the 46. If they keep fighting like that, though, you have to wonder, is Connor Hall going to be able to close down that 2-second gap and start to make it a 3-way fight?
It's definitely not going to make things more difficult for Connor Hall there running for the 3rd spot.
Meanwhile, 4th place is being joined by Daniel Knight now. So as they come out of the carousel, that is Sink that you can see in the green and black. The blue and orange belonging to Aaron Mulrooney and Daniel Knight behind them in the black machine. 160 miles an hour before they all get on the binders here. Trying to make the apex down through Canada corner. Oh, a little bit too wide there for Thomas Sink. That's going to slow him up. And Mulrooney's brave enough to make it too wide through the blind Bill Mitchell bend. That will net him 4th spot. Gutsy stuff from the 14.
It looked like things getting a little physical a little further back between Daniel Knight in the 17 and the 48 of Thomas Sink.
They start to run up the hill. Thomas Sink now has Daniel Knight all over his rear spoiler, and he's not going to try and risk it, though. In fact, very deep in the corner for Thomas Sink, maybe too deep. He looks slow coming off of that right-hander. Daniel Knight now looking to the inside and decides he doesn't want it. Oh, and he gets another shot. Oh, and he gets a little too greedy. Car goes sideways behind him. Mark Kalin is going to try and breeze by. They almost rub doors. He's got the momentum. He should be clear by the braking zone, but it's not over because here comes Abner Acosta. Can he demote Daniel Knight even one more?
Yeah, for a second there, it looked like Kalin opened the door and Acosta was going to follow him through. We may still see that there looks like Kalen and Knight both got a little squirrely out of the corner.
Still side by side. Knight on the outside, Kalen on the inside. Kalen finally seals the deal, and Knight shuts the door so that the 5 of Acosta can't overtake him as well.
Now with this expected to be a one-stop race, you got to think, Joe, a lot of these guys are really wheeling these trucks around here, and they look like they're probably going to scrub the grip off these tires sooner than later.
Yeah, this is very hard racing. I thought for sure that tire saving would be very much a strategy that we'd see a lot of the drivers attempting to do, but maybe not so, as everyone is really wheeling them coming through the kink now. As we watch this, I do want to note that Connor Hall did in fact catch up to Holly and Regan Jr. So it's now to a 3-car fight. Ooh, looking to the inside though. Knight thinking about it on Kalen, can't quite get it done.
Yeah, this really seems like chain reaction type racing. As soon as one of them moves, the rest respond.
Now coming back to the front stretch. You can see that Kalen is very, very close to Thomas Sink. He's rebuffed Daniel Knight. So what will this do between the quartet? Will we see any change of positions into turn 1? Sink looks well clear now that they've hit top speed. Kalen braking early even.
Ooh, and Knight and Acosta both get crazy loose.
Impressive stuff. Oh, and Holly's got a good shot. Holly is having to go the long way around, though. Regan once again saw what was going on. He defended. He's lost a little bit of the lead. A nose ahead for the outside truck. Can he finally get it done? Can he do this the long way around? He almost might have it. It's still not quite there. Sending it in deep, trying to deny him. Oh no, he loses the truck. Richard Regan Jr. goes from the lead to spun in third. He tries to get it going. He's facing the right way. The 46 is moving, but he has lost gobs of time.
Well, there was a similar incident that netted him the lead and eventually the win in the Cup Series race on Sunday. And looks like just got a little bit too caught up in the heat of the battle, and unfortunately the 46 goes around.
Well, that is going to be one where I'm sure he's kicking himself. He is still in third, so a good points day could still be on the cards, but he needs all he can to try and beat Holly, I'm sure, from his past experience. As once again, we take a look at Kalen, Knight, and Acosta. They're starting to lose touch with Thomas Sink. He seems to have cut off the slipstream. That is probably a huge sigh of relief for him as all of them get awful close to the grass on the outside of the kink. Knight maybe a little too slow coming off of the corner. Even though Acosta closes in, he doesn't try and attack down into Canada Corner.
Yeah, it seems like at this point in the run, these guys are starting to maybe lose a little bit of confidence in their trucks. We're not seeing as many bold moves around the tracks we were seeing from this quartet here earlier.
Oh, and that's a truck off track. That is Mulrooney. That's for position, and all of them are just going to breeze past him. In fact, he's going to cut into pit lane. Now, will he get an unsafe pit entry for that?
It was borderline. I mean, he did have to cross the grass to get in there, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. But he is heading down pit lane right now.
I'm just glad that he didn't do that later on, because we've seen in the past that as we got a battle on screen, Knight and Kalen to the outside in the green machine, and Knight to the inside in the black and red. Sees if he could get that car off the corner better, and he does, and he's going to tow along Abner Acosta, once again using the savvy of his road racing knowledge, just utilize that open hole to get himself into 6th. But I was about to say was that it's a good thing that Mulrooney did not try to cut across the grass later on. We've seen cars try that on iRacing before, and there's a big bump in the middle that sends you flying.
Yeah, it's a deceptively difficult pit road here. Just the natural terrain mixed with the fun of the track surface, and it can get a little dicey if you don't time it right.
Kalen was 2 wheels in the dirt there for a moment out of turn 5 up to turn 6, but he held on to it and still keeps within range of Acosta and Knight. We're almost halfway through, so Mulrooney's may have been a little bit of an audible, but I do think that that's not too far off a valid strategy for him. That's one thing that we haven't talked about, though, is the undercut with fresh tires potentially.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how it plays out for Mulrooney, because this is such a long track, and pitting at the right time is really such a challenge here because of all the variables that can come into play here. So I'm excited to see how it works out for Mulrooney.
He's already back on track. He's returned in 28th position. I believe, yeah, it looks like he did get an unsafe pit entry penalty because I see a 55-second stop, and that is definitely not a typical stop time.
Yeah, I was watching the pit counter there, and it just seemed to go on forever.
Oh, and multiple of our leaders are in. Daniel Knight, Thomas Sink, Richard Regan Jr., but Hawley, Hall, and Acosta stay out.
Well, Acosta said he likes to wait as long as possible to make his pit stops before, so possibly Connor Hall and Bradley Holly on that same plan.
Cervantes also in, Kalen, but not Charles Sumner. Sumner up to 4th now. Actually, big credit to the number 98. Charles Sumner qualified 18th. Now, some of these positions, of course, are from the drivers who are pitting, but he only lost, what, about 6? Yeah, 6 positions, or gained 6 positions, rather, from those pit stops. So he's still up quite a ways from where he was, as we see Regan now coming back out and in clear air.
That's definitely going to help his efforts to try to get back up into the lead mix once the leaders end up taking their pit stops.
I have to imagine that we'll see the rest of the leaders pit in response, knowing that they could lose a lot of time in the undercut. Bradley Hawley, who we currently see coming around the carousel, has gapped himself from Connor Hall. It's about 1.5 seconds to the number 77. That's the white hooded car that you see just behind him as they swing it through the kink. We're coming close to the pit entry here soon, and then we'll get a better idea of what that will do in relation to themselves and Richard Regan.
Of course, soon being a relative term here at Road America.
Yeah, a couple more corners to go. Up and over Bill Mitchell Bend, the 184. This will be telling. Does he feel like he needs to respond to keep from getting undercut? He's really pushing, and yeah, he is heading in. Hawley responds. Hall keeps going. It's a while before we get back to Acosta. Richard Regan is currently going through the kink himself. Hawley's got plenty of time, but it takes a while to get down pit lane. There you see, just trundling along at about 45 miles an hour. Looking for his stall. Didn't get that pole position bonus this time. So instead, he slots in to the 4th box. Oh, but he missed it slightly. Ooh. Will this cost him the potential lead?
That is a very unusual mistake in the pit lane from Holly.
Getting the rest of his tires, and he is off. Regan's just now coming up the hill. I'm pretty certain that Hawley is easily clear. Yes, indeed, he is.
But you got to think that's a net gain overall for Regan. I mean, he had almost over a second quicker pit stop time, so you got to think that's going to at least cut down on some of the gap that he had on the track.
Most likely. Still waiting on Connor Hall, Abner Acosta, and Charles Sumner to pit. I think Nick Schwartz? Yeah, Nick Schwartz also keeps going. Has yet to take his fuel and tire. Stacy Hunter and Brandon Adams are both in. In fact, Bradley Hawley, well, he was fighting more with Hall than Regan. since Regan had his spin. But it does look like Regan has caught up by quite a bit. I think it was 15 seconds before. It's down to 9 seconds as we're watching Regan currently. Down to 10 laps to go. Keeping an eye on our current leader, Connor Hall, to see if he comes in this time.
You talked about the undercut being pretty powerful, Joe. Looking at looks like Connor Hall is heading down pit lane right now, but you look at the last laps, and the drivers that stayed out were almost a second slower per lap than the drivers on the pressure tires.
Seems like the trade-off is going to hurt now. They'll lose track position, but now they are going to have fresher tires towards the end of the race. Abner Acosta is in. Hawley's just coming around the final corner. Hall hasn't even hit his stall yet. He's finally there now. The front row driver takes his fuel. Hawley's just coming to the line. Can Hall beat him out? No. Easily by Bradley Hawley back up into the lead. Hall still stationary. Now he gets going. Connor Hall back out on track and really miles away from Bradley Hawley. However, Regan's early stop has helped immensely. Look at this. From almost a dozen seconds back to Connor Hall, Richard Regan Jr.'s early pit stop now allows him to start to put the pressure on. But can he, considering he's got 2 lap older tires than Connor?
This is definitely going to be a compromise here for Regan to see. Does he try to put in the quick laps now, or does he want to hang on to those tires to the end of the run?
Especially considering he's going to be at a slight disadvantage now. As both Kalen and Acosta have been in a lot of fights, and they're actually going to come together out of turn 5. A little bit of a clumsy move. Watch this one again. This is Kalen's perspective. Down in 5. Gives him plenty of space, but not enough space, and gets rudely shoved off track.
Kalen did a great job of getting that truck slowed down, though, and I mean, that could have gone a lot worse had he stayed in it and ended up going off track there. So Mark Kalen did a great job of just keeping the truck on the track.
Oh, and we had a problem for Brandon Walter. The number 99 actually took a tow even. Oh no, a blown engine. Blown engine for the number 99. I think from what I'm seeing on the replay, which we unfortunately don't have footage of, he must have shifted from third to first there because he was well down the straight and suddenly it expired on him. Meanwhile, back to Knight here. It's a nice fight with Thomas Sink. They exit the final corner, and as we ride on board, looking off the rear bumper, we're going to catch glances of Danny Cervantes in the 25, just behind them.
You know, you got to think by the end of this race, Daniel Knight and Thomas Sink are going to be just about sick of looking at each other.
You would imagine so. Could be that they're having fun out there, though. Knight was way off the apex coming through turn 1. That certainly will not bring him closer to Thomas Sink. Down to 8 laps to go at this point. As they start to pick up speed, Knight is way off the rear of the number 48. Don't think that one's happening right now. Let's head back to Charles Sumner in 13th. Who's putting a lot of pressure on Austin Hunter in the 312. The Rescue Racing guys recently put on a charity race for animals that need to be adopted. Really glad that GSRC got to be involved with that one. Ooh, very good exit here from Charles Sumner. Can he manage to get himself one more spot up from 13th? He's already +5 from his grid position. Takes a little bit of a peek, and he decides maybe not yet.
This could be one of those times when patience pays off for Sumner.
Patience is a virtue. So, is he virtuous? Is the 98 got anything to try and overtake on the 312? Sure, he would appreciate getting at least one more, even though it's no more than pride and maybe a few points at this point. Both times in the last couple corners, Hunter was off the apex. He will get it easily as Hunter has to whoa up through the grass to try and collect the car. Now just behind them for 14th, Zemke and Brett Adams are also fighting. Now Adams was one of those that did not get a qualifying time in, so while he is up from many spots down, and he's going to be one more up, his start from 27th does not necessarily match what his pace is, of course. And up to 14th, as Bill Zahn would like to say, it is not a legitimate hard charger.
You always got to add that asterisk on there.
He would be mad at me if I did not. Let's go back to Daniel Knight. Now, Thomas Sink was just in front of him not too long ago, and he's unfortunately been making mistakes like that, just spinning up the rear tires, and Danny Cervantes has been pulling him in closer and closer and closer until he can get side by side here and break earlier down into turn 5. Can he make the corner as Knight goes way out to try and widen it up, looks for the over-under. Cervantes on the outside. Is he going to be able to pull this one off, or is Knight going to be able to deny him? He's going to deny him. So Daniel stays in 5th.
That was a heck of a crossover move by Daniel Knight, though. He definitely made use of every bit of asphalt there was out there.
Drivers are allowed to do that now in this version of the track. So it is all fair game out there. As we ride on board with Danny, the 25 is now once again staring at that rear spoiler. They're going to put a lap on William Farmer. This is not for position, although a bit of an awkward space, unfortunately, for Knight coming out of the carousel. Oh, we've had an off. Mark Kalin, after such great battles that he's had, Kalin finds himself nosing it into the tire wall. Just a little boink, bounces back. Gets going with a bruised ego and a few positions lost, but otherwise he's fine.
Yeah, the good news there is that he's able to continue on. The bad news is that we all saw that happen.
Ooh, once again, a look from Cervantes on to Daniel Knight. And now behind them, it's Abner Acosta in the number 5.
Yeah, Acosta, another one of those drivers that's been really fast today, but just seems to be bitten by a series of mistakes here as he adjusts to drive a whole different kind of fast today, but in a whole new just seems to be bitten by a series of mistakes here as he adjusts
6
to drive.
laps to go. We still have 26 trucks on the lead lap. I think somewhat flattered by the length of the lap that we have around here at Road America. Once again, a little mistake from Cervantes. Acosta sees that he's slow. He goes side by side, but Cervantes, wise to the attack, goes defensive, but gives it up, and gives it up readily. Really not in a mood to fight here in these final few laps. Acosta quickly sets his sights on Daniel Knight and might actually have something as he gets side by side coming through turn 6. This is what sent Acosta off earlier on, being on the outside of turn 7, but he learned his lesson, gave a little bit more room to the 17. Has he got it done and dusted? Yes, I believe he does.
Yeah, he wasted no time making that move on Daniel Knight. Obviously learned something from what happened to him earlier on in the race, because that just looked textbook.
all this shuffling around means that Cervantes is still close. Well, looks to me like Acosta might be licking his chops as he stares at the rear bumper of the 48, thinking, I could get myself up to 4th position here. This is not out of the question. Just ahead of them, Bradley Hully crossing the line now to make it 5 to go.
And Bradley's got a pretty healthy gap right now over Connor Hall, who looks like he's looking at his 2nd podium of the week for the PRL series, but unfortunately hasn't been able to find the way to victory lane, and you know he's got to be frustrated with that.
No doubt about that. Down the front stretch, up towards turn 1 once again. And Acosta is really close behind. Got a truck off. I didn't quite see who that was. I think that was a lapped truck, though. We'll come back to that a little bit later. Ooh, this is a good opportunity. Acosta knows it. He's trying to get the car to go. He's going to have to duck back into the slipstream. Sink, not defensive yet. Is he going to be able to send one up the inside into turn 5? Acosta's made plenty of brave moves in sports cars. What about in trucks? No, not brave enough here.
I think a good part of it has to be the confidence that he has in the truck. I just don't think Abner's as comfortable here as we've seen him in years past.
It's not the Abner that I'm used to, that's for sure. Though he was fine for a win briefly, just not anymore. Down the hurry downs and into the left-hander of 8. Oof. He's starting to get something out of sync, though. He went way wide off that corner.
Yeah, as this goes on, he's definitely getting a little more daring as he kind of gets at ease with it, but you can just see it's not quite to his liking yet.
Once again, through the kink, Acosta showing himself that little bit quicker. The sink defend. They come down to Canada corner. No, he's going to stick to the racing line. So he feels safe for now, but he goes wide, and I don't see Acosta waiting for a second invitation. Indeed, he's going to go side by side. Sink decides it's better to just finish this race. He lifts, and Acosta moves to 4th.
Yeah, definitely didn't have to tell Abner twice.
On to the front stretch. Acosta has 7.5 seconds to make up to Regan. Regan doing 2:20.3. Acosta, you know what? Acosta might be able to do this. Oh, maybe he won't, because now he's having Sink fight back with him, and that's going to slow up his lap time significantly. Abner Acosta through turn 1 rebuffs him, and in fact Sink looks slow off the corner. Here comes Daniel Knight just behind, and no jousting with his rival there that time, so Knight will stay put in 6. He'll certainly get other opportunities.
Well, here's one that's getting a little bit chippy on track here, Joe. That 60 of Colton Lane doing battle with the 59 of Brendan Chatley.
This one also into the first corner, but Lane's much better about getting the truck down to the apex, and Brendan Chatley is going to have to get it steered in a little better than that, unfortunately. Chatley loses enough time, but he is well back from lane at this point. That is Mark Kalin. Your eyes do not deceive you. The Rescue Racing driver has slipped down to 9th and might even fall out of the top 10, depending on if he can hold off both Lane and Chatley.
Yeah, unfortunately he ran up towards the sharp end of the field here for a while, but had that incident. Oh, we have somebody having some trouble there up ahead.
I think that's another lap truck. It's William Farmer. Yeah, oh, and Farmer's at a really bad place for Brennan Chatley. It went from about half a second to over a second, and in front of him, a spin. Oh, and one of them gets into him. That was Colton Lane, and it was Chatley who just scrapes along his side. And after this replay, we need to go to Daniel Knight. Let's stay on the replay because I think it happened almost exactly the same time. Oh, he outbraked himself in the 60. That sent him around, and there you see Chatley running into him. Let's go to Daniel Knight in the 17. Yeah, it happens right at the same time, and it didn't look like he got help there.
No, it looked like he just didn't quite make the braking point correctly. No, he went. Oh.
Yeah, he was all the way over into the grass on the other side of the track. That's that kinked entry I was talking about, and the 17's paying dearly for it. He's gone back to 7th. Now, that is what I hadn't quite noticed, is I forgot that he started down in 7th position. So he had worked his way forward quite a ways, and unfortunately just goes back to where he began. Meanwhile, Cervantes still fighting for a top 5, Sink just in front of him.
Yeah, Cervantes has had a pretty solid day here so far as he runs up into 6th position. And he's definitely closing the gap there to Thomas Sink. Looks like he was thinking about taking a peek to it, but Sink shut the door on him.
I'm sure that Cervantes is still pretty hungry, especially since he started from 3rd and he's down in 6th. As they go through turn 7, Cervantes is going to have to get much closer to effect a pass. We're going to be getting the one to go pretty soon here. You know, we talked about expecting attrition to play a part. We've only lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of our 34 starters. That is pretty good stats, if I say so.
Yeah, I mean, we had such a big gap in the iRating level on the road course side for these drivers. It's a primarily an oval series, and despite that, a lot of these guys have been really impressive. I mean, we've seen some drivers that probably have less experience on the road course and definitely seem uncomfortable, but these drivers are doing what they have to do to get out there and get the experience. And they showed up and they're trying to learn, and sometimes when you're in these situations, that's all you can ask of these drivers.
Certainly. Whoa. And who was Bradley Hawley going by there? It was Brandon Adams. That was a lap truck that was off. Still gave the 184 a scare. Other than moments like that, it's been smooth sailing for the 184 because he's 5.4 seconds ahead of Connor Hall and consistently quicker than him on most laps.
Well, after the craziness we've had with 2020, sometimes it's nice to have things that are familiar and comfortable, and the 184 leading the PRL series definitely makes you comfortable with that nostalgic feeling.
Yeah, and I posed that question at the start. Will things go back to normal? And Bradley Hawley is giving a big yes to that one. And Colton Lane, I think, is going to give up a bunch of positions. He must be either short-fueled and unsure if he can make it, or he's got some sort of problem, because I heard him do this last lap with another car. That was both Austin Hunter, and Aaron Mulrooney that just went by him. He's giving the wave around to Richter and Zemke on top of it.
Yeah, I can hear him over the radio instructing drivers where to pass him.
And Richter, before he could even try and overtake, is going to lose his spot to Zemke. That's the blue truck just ahead of the red truck. And then the red, white, and blue slowing up. That is Colton Lane falling down to P17 now. Poor Mike Richter thought he was going to get 15th and wound up stuck exactly where he was before, as Zemke says, I'll have a 2-for-1, thank you very much.
That's, I believe, an updated scheme that Richter's running on that truck today, and that is a nice truck.
As Hawley comes across the line, White flag waves. It is down to 1 lap to go. Still holding that 5-second lead, and it appears now that he is simply matching the pace and managing the gap.
Ooh, couple of moments there.
Sink and Cervantes are not resting on their laurels by any stretch of the imagination. Weaving to try and break the slipstream. Thomas Sink wants a top 5 today.
You know, they got loose with such a impeccable timing. It's almost like they coordinated it.
Coming down into turn 3. Don't think they want to be doing synchronized swimming here, but a little squirrely still. Sink not liking these tires.
Well, you know, the lake here in Elkhart Lake is one of the major tourist attractions. So I guess they were going to synchronize swim. There's plenty of places to do it.
Well, he's managing to hold off his rival. If it's sink or swim, it looks like Sink is answering. It won't be Sink, but it will be Sink. Because right now he's still holding on to that top 5, but it's not over. In the meantime, I can tell you that Bradley Hawley is still cruising around with just 4 or 5 more corners to go. He's coming through the kink right now. The 184 has basically put a stamp on the start of the season. He didn't win the first race, but a second place and bonus points tied him for the points lead. And with Jean having a horrible day, right on board with the helmet cam of the Texas driver. Up and over the crest. This will give us a good idea just how blind it is. Can't see much even as tall as you sit in these trucks. And then up through the final turn. 184 of Bradley Hawley crests the hill to see the checkered flag waving and take a win in round 2 here in the PRL NASCAR Truck Series. Connor Hall follows him home for a second and a distant third for a demoralized Richard Regan Jr. Sink's just got to hold on for one more corner. Can he get off the corner smoothly? He's pushing a little bit too hard. Was that enough for Cervantes? I don't think so. Danny also not giving it as much as he needed. Sink almost threw it away in the dying stages, but he will get that top 5. Cervantes in 6th. Woo, everybody's struggling on the rubber right now here, Chris.
Yeah, these guys are going to, I would say they're limping them home, but they're still duking it out for these positions as they come towards the line.
Got to be so nerve-wracking knowing you've got to put the power down enough, but you can't put it down too much. It's such a thin line. Kalen, did he do it enough? Chatley's got a run on him. Doesn't look to be enough, though, as they come to the finish line. Less than a car length between them, and Kalen will get 9th. Meanwhile, this is Zimke in the blue with Hunter in the red. Hunter's got it, so that'll give him 14th. Zimke into 15th. That's the last of our battles as everybody's well spread apart from there on down to 22nd, who is our last driver on the lead lap, Adam Young. So we're going to take a break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Don't go away. Welcome back to Road America. Round 2 in the PRL NASCAR Truck Series saw Bradley Holly take the win on a road course here this season. Connor Hall followed him home. Never really looked like he was fully going to challenge, although he was close in the first couple laps. Richard Regan Jr. definitely gave it a fight, but unfortunately spun himself out in that battle, racing a little too hard. Abner Acosta, a good recovery up to fourth. Another driver that maybe you think, if it weren't for the mistakes, could have had a shot at the podium, maybe even the win. Thomas Sink got a top 5 in a hard fight with Danny Cervantes just behind him in 6th. Daniel Knight was 7th. He was farther up, but another one that threw away a good finish. How about Jim Westerfield? 12th to 8th today. Definitely moving forward. Mark Kalin was 9th, and Brennan Shatley, without a qualifying time, went all the way up from 28th to 10th.
Charles Sumner with a pretty quiet, consistent day comes home in 11th with Brett Adams right behind him. Aaron Mulrooney had an up-and-down day to come home 13th with Austin Hunter 14th. Adam Zemke with some late passes comes home 15th over Mike Richter. Then 17th was Doug Evans in the 41. Colton Lane struggling home to 18th with Blaine Adams and Patrick Cowgill completing your top 20.
And 21st, it was John LaBaff with Adam Young being the last one on the lead lap in 22nd. Stacy Hunter, 23rd. Dominic Begine, 24th. And Nick Hunter, 25th. It was William Farmer in P26, Brandon Adams in 27th, and Terry R. Marinero in 28th. From there on down, you get into the DNFs today, unfortunately. Drivers that just did not see the checkered flag. Looks like we've got our winner ready to talk to us. Bradley Holly's here. Congratulations, Brad, from 4th on the grid to the win. But the start of the race looked a little tense.
Oh, it absolutely was. But I was having a blast. I actually messed up qualifying in turn 4 or 5. So I knew my work was cut out for me today, and but I was looking forward to battling with Richard and Connor.
It did appear, though, once you had those pit stops, that you had things well under control. From there, were you just kind of managing the tires, trying to bring the car home safe?
Oh, absolutely. I saw that he was doing the overcut, and I just wasn't confident with it. With how tough it is, first off, the pass, and then the fall off of the tires. I knew we would. I had a feeling we would equal out, and that's actually what ended up happening.
Well, you've now got one on the board after being denied at Michigan. So I suppose, is this everything back to normal? Are we going to see the usual Holly dominance?
We'll see. I mean, we got some good competition in the PRL for this season, so I'm sure it's going to be tougher. And honestly, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be hopefully real fun for everybody to watch and see who comes out on top every week.
Yeah, obviously not taking anything away from you, but we're looking forward to a good challenge up front as well. Again, congratulations, Brad, and can't wait to see you next week at Myrtle Beach.
Thank you very much.
It's Bradley Holly, our winner here today at Road America. Up next, Chris Phoebe has our second place finisher, Connor Hall.
Well, Connor, good run today. The opening laps there looked a little dicey for you. Fell back a little bit, but made the charge back up to second.
Yeah, I was just kind of the best of the rest today, I guess you could say. Holly and Richard were just really, really good. I was gonna be pretty happy with a third. I'm not. I thought going into Watkins Glen with the Cup side, I thought I was a pretty good road racer. And to say the least, I was pretty just humbled, I guess, at Watkins Glen with the amount of mistakes I found myself making. So I really just focused on, just getting a clean finish, bringing it home in one piece, trying to limit my off-track incidents, just stuff like that.
Now, these trucks looked like they were a handful to drive around this track today. Can you give us a little insight on that?
Yeah, I was actually pretty surprised with, how well you were having to manage the gas pedal today. Because usually, I would think that, obviously the Cup side having 200 more horsepower or so would have been a lot more of a handful. But, within like once the tires really wore out and you got into those, bogged down second gear portions of the track, it was pretty easy to spin the tires after about 5 laps. So, I had to, learn on and work on that throughout the race. And just once I got behind, once Holly and Regan started, battling a lot, allowed me to catch back up. I was able to really try to follow Bradley and learn what he was doing. And I picked up a little bit, but I don't still think if there was a yellow per se and we all lined it back up, I think I was a third place truck for sure.
Well, anybody you want to thank that helped make today possible for you?
Yeah, just on the Cup side, James Mullins and Nexus, I just gotta keep thanking them. They're really working hard with me this season, and good win to Bradley, and Richard and him would have probably fought out for the win, but I'm just happy to try to learn a little on the road side and work again at having fun iRacing, and just like PRL and Global SimRacing Channel for putting this on. I had fun today.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Connor Hall. That's our second place finisher today. And back up to you, Joe.
Yeah, we've got third place finisher Richard Regan with us, but he was the pole sitter and did lead some of the early laps. But Richard, I have to ask, what was it like under the helmet after your mistake in turn 6 when the lead went away from your hands?
Well, it all started on the first lap when unfortunately me and Brad made contact early, and he hit me right in the left front tire, and it gave me 35 seconds of damage. But I mean, I don't think he meant to do it. And Brad's a really good driver. I think he just made a little bit of a mistake and locked up the left front tire. So that kind of killed the truck on the long run. And I knew he was a little bit faster down the straightaway because of it. And yeah, when me and him were side by side, I drove it in a tad deeper than I wanted to and just shattered the rear tires. And I was going to either go into him or spin out and try not to hit him. So I just tried not to hit him.
Well, it's definitely an admirable way to go about things, to try to make sure to keep it fair for your competitors. Still, you did recover to at least a third place. Is that any consolation, or was this kind of a win or bust a day for you?
I'm not really in the series full time, so every race is win or bust for me. But we definitely had the pace. So it's just a little disappointing.
Well, in that case, when do you think we'll see you show up again here in the trucks?
I should be here next week, depending on how work works out with me. I don't really know my work schedule till the week of, so.
Totally understand. Well, still, hopefully we'll get to see how you fare on a short track when we go to Myrtle Beach, and congratulations on a podium.
I'd like to give a shout out to my sponsors, Private Label and Ethica, Ty Stover, James O'Brien, Tommy Milner, Brandon Walter, even though he's not my teammate in the trucks. Everyone at Team Hype, everyone that tunes in, and I like to give a shout out to Neonism. If you need a paint, go to facebook.com/neonism. Tell them the PRL sent you. Oculus glasses, and yeah, just thanks to you guys for broadcasting.
Well, thank you. That was Richard Regan, third place. And finally, we've got our top 5 finisher, Thomas Sink, who gave us plenty of action on the track. Chris has caught up with him.
Well, Thomas, you looked like you were probably the busiest man on the track today, just in so many battles throughout the day, and looked like it must have been pretty fun out there for you. Can you tell us about your race?
Oh, it was a struggle, boys. I mean, it felt like I was complaining all day. Just it felt like you couldn't put any load on the tires. I was sliding. I couldn't get the car stopped. I couldn't get it going. I'm literally sweating. It was a rough one today.
Well, it seemed like you and Daniel Knight were just about glued to each other for a good chunk of that race. And did you guys have fun out there?
He might have fun. I was just in defense mode, just trying not to lose a spot, but also trying not to run into anything. It was like I said, it just felt like I was on ice. I was sliding all over the place. I was trying not to get in that Daniel. I know he got deep in I don't know what corner it was, and I heard his tires lock up, and I looked over, and I'm like, well, he's going for the moon, and he just shot past me, and I turned, and that was pretty much the end of that. But it was a difficult race today, just super slick with everyone. I'm glad that I didn't hit anyone, and glad I didn't hit anything.
Well, we're going to the complete different end of the spectrum next week, heading to the short track at Myrtle Beach. And how are you feeling about your chances there?
Pretty good. I think I got a PRL win there a couple of years back. I know it's completely different now with a different tire model, a different air model. I tend to be fairly decent on the ovals. I struggle a little bit on the short track, so we'll see. It'll be interesting.
All right, Thomas. Anybody you want to thank to help make today possible for you?
Yeah. I mean, thank you guys for putting on a great presentation. I love going back and watching your guys' stuff when I'm at the gym. My girlfriend Bianca at home and the family that's watching. All my friends out in Missouri, everyone that's watching. Muscle Farm for sponsoring the truck, and then Brad for putting some sponsorship on the truck also.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Thomas. Congratulations on a good run. And
thank you.
Throw it back to you, Joe.
Thanks for that. And after some good interviews, we want to close out, of course, with a few thank yous, starting off with our sponsors. If you want to check out Simulation Motorsports Affinity, they can be found at simsa.net. And then, of course, if you want to see what Ninja Trader can do for you, they are at ninjatrader.com. And then if you've got a sim rig and you want to fancy it up, go check out Butt Kicker. They are at thebuttkicker.com. Thanks goes out to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts that you see listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Sean, Chris, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media, which includes Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head on over to our YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button so that you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. As we mentioned, the next race is heading south to Myrtle Beach. That'll be Wednesday, January 13th at 9 p.m. Eastern. But we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.